You are listening to Double Doinkers Fantasy Football Podcast with Nick Meyer and Willie J. It is Super Bowl week. We're going to talk about the final ends of coaching search, news, fantasy football stuff. That wasn't very descriptive. And the reason it wasn't very descriptive is because, you know what? We're in the Super Bowl week. This is the final week. Fantasy football at this point, as you should know, has been over for a while. But however, football isn't. And football never ends and football never dies. So we're
Football's
here.
in full swing. If you really think about it.
we are getting news all the time. I had a little bit of nostalgia because this Super Bowl is in San Francisco or Santa Clara, technically. And they're doing media day and everything, right? And so the only one Super Bowl I covered was in Santa Clara. It was, I think, 10 years ago exactly. And so I'm seeing they didn't really change the signage. Like the Gatorade signs look the exact same and the lighting looks the same. And but it's giving me levels of nostalgia I didn't think it would. As I'm watching, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like they still could figure out how to light Vrabel's face very well. That's fine.
He can just wear sunglasses. He doesn't need to be well lit.
Vrabel is going off on one too. I kind of love it. The question when he answered about cutting his male parts off to win a Super Bowl, and someone's like, "Would you still do that?" And he's like, "I cut off half and leave her 6." I was like, "Dude, who are you?"
If you think about it, like he only would have to cut off half if they lost. So he's okay. He's in the home stretch right now. And I was looking here. The last Super Bowl in Santa Clara was 10 years ago. It was when the Broncos beat the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It kind of feels like this could be a similar game to that in terms of score and defensive dominance, but I don't know. I'm actually, at first I was like, dang, the Patriots in their Super Bowl again, like kind of boring. But if you think about it, like no one predicted these two teams at the beginning of the year, and that's exciting. It's like reminds me of when the Bengals were in the Super Bowl with the Rams, but even more unpredictable. It's like if there was two Bengals teams, and that's it's fun. I like parity. You don't see it in the NFL very much.
I don't love the Patriots getting back, but this is for purely selfish reasons. Because it just makes me really sad that teams can rebuild so quick, and yet I'm stuck over here cheering for the team in the corner that can't ever figure it out. But that's selfish. Drake May can't start another dynasty though. They have to lose the Super Bowl for me to feel balance.
Let's let the Patriots be like the like the Jimmy Garoppolo Niners or something. Not Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo. Just like those Niners teams that like were really talented and had a great coach, and they made the Super Bowl sometimes, but they weren't a dynasty. Or the Jim Harbaugh Niners, or like even like the Harbaugh pre-Lamar Ravens. Like that kind of team where it's like they're good, but not a dynasty. Like we don't need
another dynasty. Also, probably inappropriate for this podcast, but like only one of their owners has his name in the Epstein file so far. I'm just saying.
Only one. Okay.
Only one. As far as the owner of the Seahawks is the whole thing, right? Because right now it's the sister of the late Paul Allen.
Oh, she's in the Epstein files, or no? Robert Kraft is. Okay.
Robert Kraft is, yes, not her. But she has to. I think she's forced to sell the team after this year.
I heard rumors about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like they're in a transitory period. Of course, they'll get to the Super Bowl in their transitory period, showing that like you don't have to suck to trade owners. You can do whatever you want. Turns out.
This gives me hope for the offseason and next year. Like, obviously, there is not this much parity in the Super Bowl each year, but the idea of like going into next year really not knowing who could be in the Super Bowl is exciting.
Yeah. It's just not having the Chiefs as the powerhouse again is so nice. It really is so nice. And I was thinking about it, right? Because we talked prior to this, and it was like, okay, it's the Broncos or the Patriots, and I don't really like either option. I am still happier with the Patriots than the Broncos, but they're because of this is that if the Broncos had made the Super Bowl, even if they got beat down, everyone would have said it's because they didn't have Bo Nix.
That narrative, that narrative would have been really boring. And I'm just glad the Broncos didn't make it because of Sean Payton. But
yeah, I mean that's also fair because he's so dislikable sometimes, almost all the time.
Did you hear what
There
he was
was
saying about Bo Nix? Yeah, when he was like just kind of dragging Bo Nix about like, oh, he's like, oh, Nix didn't disclose his ankle injuries or like the, he had surgeries in the off season in college that we weren't aware of, and then Nix was on some podcast and was like, it's like he wasn't directly addressing the Peyton's comments, but he was like, like I don't have to disclose this to people.
yeah, yeah, right, and he's like, "Oh, well, it would get injured again for sure," and it's like, "Okay, well, you can say that now after it did get injured, but what do
Yeah,
you mean for sure? It took a weird tackle for it to get injured. Like, are you saying that anyways, yeah, Sean Payton just stays unlikable, and if he can ruin that chemistry he has with Bo Nix, sorry,
yeah,
Bo Nix. I'm happy. I'm with it. I'm a Raiders fan. What do you want me to do? Like there was I mean, and then we saw it from both sides. Like Sean Payton's only been to one Super Bowl in how many years when he had Drew Brees and like whatever. It's
yeah.
hard to get there, I suppose. But let's talk about now. Well, let's talk about the future. So we got the Seahawks, we've got the Patriots. I do want you to just put on stone who you believe is gonna win.
I mean, I'm gonna go with the narrative, or the odds makers narrative of the Seahawks. I think that the Patriots are a young team, but they have some good skill position players. Nothing incredible, but they are a well coached team. They're well rounded. But when you compare them to the Seahawks, I don't know. Like it's a little different than looking at the Patriots of the Giants. That's just kind of another similar odds makers line with the Giants being huge underdogs and winning. But Giants did have a quarterback like Eli Manning who had been there before. They
Mhm,
did have I forget who their coach was, but they had a really good defense. They had just kind of underperformed throughout the year. So they were really lucky to be there, but they had more of a consistent team over years. They weren't super young like the Patriots. There's really not many positions on the Patriots that, pop off like, okay, the Patriots could win this game because, their O line is incredible. Like it's not.
mhm,
Drake May is great, but he's still a young quarterback. It's his first like really, really big game. Their defense is really good. It's well coached under Mike Vrabel, but they don't have a superstar. The Seahawks are just such a well-rounded team at
mhm.
virtually every single position, and that's just it. It's like it's one thing to go up against like a great team, like a dynasty, like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl or whatever, but to go up against a team that is so specifically well-rounded, it just makes it feel a lot more difficult. It the Patriots just have a really big uphill battle, and they don't have any position on their or any skill position or defensive skill position on their team that can single-handedly win them a big game like the Super Bowl, at least in my opinion.
I would agree with that, like, and even the position where, like, Christian Gonzalez, right? Probably the most large star power name on the defense right now.
Yeah,
Let's say somehow he has the best game of his life and he shuts down JSN.
yeah,
Well, we saw it in the playoffs already. They're fine with going to the other options. Rashid Shaheed is suddenly looking great.
yeah,
Cooper Cup is there, looking great, and Kenneth Walker is having the time of his life right now.
yeah,
So, for me, I'll go ahead and say I think the Seahawks are going to win. The only way the Patriots win this game is if they slow it down, and their defense comes out as dominant.
yeah. Dominant in a way that we haven't seen during the regular season. Like, they had a great defense, but they didn't have the Super Bowl caliber defense like a Texans or a Broncos could, where the offense wouldn't matter so much that they could win a game single-handedly based on their defense. Like, that's not discrediting Mike Vrabel and what he's done, but there's just really no superstars on this defense.
Hmm.
And this isn't college, it's not Indiana, and it's not Kurt
Yeah,
Signetti working his
right.
magic. This is them going up against one of the most well-rounded, if in my opinion, if not the most well-rounded team in the league, besides maybe, a healthy 49ers. Um, the Seahawks are just they don't have weaknesses. Like they really, really don't.
It's wild because so you may not know this off the top of your head, but I want to talk about the Seahawks for a second because the Seahawks after this year, and so now I'm kind of future predicting a little bit here. So the
Mhm.
Seahawks next year, they're gonna all be hot commodities, especially if they win the Super Bowl, but regardless of whether or not they do, right?
Yeah.
However, there could be fool's gold there for fantasy. Maybe not JSN really. I think JSN has kind of ascended and he's taken the throne of that wide receiver room.
Yeah. I agree.
But Do you see any of those players, like, are there contracts expiring that are gonna significantly impact the Seahawks? Because a lot of these players are gonna go get big money if there are. That's what happens after Super Bowl. You lose a lot of players because they go get big money. You lose Clint Kubiak, that's gonna hurt.
Mm, yeah.
So there'll be a lot of differences in this team next year. But I think that they're gonna have a premium if they get in because of how dominant the team was this year.
I was actually looking up their significant players' contracts, and the biggest hole they're gonna have, if they don't work some cap space magic or whatever, is in the secondary. But this upcoming draft is particularly rich with secondary position pieces. I've seen a lot of mock drafts, and there's a top 5 mocked corner going to the Seahawks often, not because that's a weakness of the Seahawks, but because they're potentially losing, Tariq Woolen. I think their safety, Julian Love, is a free agent. They have to pay Devon Witherspoon. Um, I think potentially he could be gone. I think he's a fourth year player, but the upcoming draft meets the needs of what the Seahawks could lose, but similar to the Patriots, they are a young team, so they have a lot of really good players under rookie contracts. I think even Demarcus Lawrence, who's been their star veteran edge rusher signing, he's still there for at least another year. And then of course they have Sam Darnold for another 2 years. I would suspect they give him an extension. I think their most intriguing offseason free agent that I think they will bring back personally, and I was very low on him, coming into this year, and that kind of came to fruition. But that's Kenneth Walker. Um, and my reasoning is because we've seen him thrive as a bell cow in the playoffs with Charbonnet going down, and with Charbonnet tearing his ACL, like he's not going to be playing very much next year. So if they do end up re-signing Kenneth Walker, um, I don't think that's fool's gold. I think that they will want him back for a reason, and I think he's going to have that backfield to himself.
Yep, yeah, I can buy that. I mean, we had different takes on Kenneth Walker completely, and yours worked during the regular season. And of course, what I'm seeing here now is like, oh, so it was just Charbonnet. That was really the issue, right? Because
Mm,
Kenneth Walker is an awesome talent. He
yeah,
can do it, but he's been injured in the past. I don't blame the Seahawks for doing a running back by committee. That makes all the sense in the world.
yeah,
But if it's not there, oh, get ready. And if he can stay healthy. So I think there are reasons that I wouldn't push him into like a first round talent, even if he's back.
yeah. No, but he did.
Enticing.
I mean, he was running back by committee, but he still played a lot every game, and he didn't get injured this year. Like he didn't miss a lot of time. If maybe he missed a couple games, I forget. But like, I think this may have been his healthiest year since his rookie season, and he proved it. And I think again, the playoffs are a small sample size, but combination of two things that he proved me wrong about is one, small sample size, but in the playoffs, like he's performed extremely well as the bell cow. And two, the Seahawks O line was significantly better than I had anticipated it being this year. So I think because the O line, has some really good young players like Gray Zabel, um, and it's just been healthy and just better than anticipated. I think that he's playing behind the best O line of his career, and that helps him stay healthy too. Um, I think having said that, there's a chance that he gets a bag from somebody else, but having said that, if he signs with the Chiefs or the Texans, particularly the Chiefs, like that's also a hot fantasy commodity. I think, I think he's proven himself this year in a way that we haven't seen in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Um, if I guess there's not really other receivers. I like if Cooper Cup stays like, but that doesn't really matter, right? I do wonder if maybe you could see Kenneth Walker level up in the similar way to what Fitzgerald did after his, and this is old head stuff like Larry Fitzgerald. He did it in the playoffs. He had the historic playoff run,
Mhm.
and he went from being like a good fantasy asset to a great fantasy asset for a while. I wonder if you could see like a level up in Kenneth Walker similarly because of the level of trust that he's given showing up in these big games.
They're about the same age. Wasn't Fitzgerald like a year 4 or 5 player when the
Hmm.
Cardinals, I think, made their
Hmm.
Super Bowl run? So there's that. I think when I talk about this, I keep going back to Kenneth Walker's 3 touchdown game against, I forget who it was. I wanna say the Niners, but either way, like, I keep going back to that because that's recency bias, but yeah, I think regardless, we do know that it's not gonna be a running back by committee with Charbonnet next year because of the
Yeah.
ACL tear.
Hmm.
So, there's something to look at there.
if they do lose Kenneth Walker, let's say, and then they end up, I know that this next upcoming draft is pretty running back lean to say,
Yeah.
but if they do end up drafting a running back, do you just like plug him in as a potential high level talent, especially if it's like a round 2, round 3 pick?
This running back draft is pretty lean. I will say. I mean, there's always gems. If Jeremiah Love starts to fall, and for some reason the Seahawks feel the ambition to trade like a future first or something crazy to move up, then Jeremiah Love probably shoots up to like top 5 pick, honestly. But I don't know. I think the free agency market for running backs is looking pretty good next year. And if they can't agree to terms of like a Kenneth Walker, I could see them maybe pulling in like a Tyler Algier or like a trade for David Montgomery, and that's somebody to watch.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. I I should talk about the same thing on the other side with the Patriots, but I don't really want to. They have a lot of young players that are fantasy relevant. Like the only player I could see kind of getting supplanted here is Hunter Henry, but also at the same point, who would be the person who came in and did that, right? So
Well, okay, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that as much as the Patriots could use like a true wide receiver one, they have enough talent that I think even like if they drafted somebody as a receiver, it could be kind of murky for fantasy. Because Stephon Diggs is still going to be there. They have just a couple of like young Kylo Williams and Mac Hollins will still be there. I think so. It's murky, but I think if they draft like a Kenyon Sadiq or like a rookie tight end, that's someone to watch for fantasy. But the receiver room doesn't get me super excited.
I,
I don't know.
I think the most exciting thing for me for the Patriots side, as far as fantasy is concerned next year, would be if the Patriots win this game and it is on the back of Travion Henderson having 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. If
Yeah,
that happens, then all of a sudden you got to be looking at Travion next year and being like, that's a guy they're gonna love. That
yeah,
whole city's gonna love, and they're gonna use him because this
yeah.
isn't Bill Belichick anymore, where it's like every week is the same. This is Vrabel, and he seems to be pretty tough. But if he has a running back that blows up in the Super Bowl and wins him a game, I think that that's gonna matter.
He's not going to pull a Belichick. Yeah, I agree, and I think that that wouldn't be like recency bias because the Super Bowl's just a whole different thing than like an end of game great game, or end of season great game. But like
Mhm.
in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks defense, if Henderson really does anything, even if he only goes for like 100 yards and a touchdown, like that's enough to be like, okay, he's our guy.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like they're still tentative with him, and it's understandable. Stevenson has had a pretty good postseason so far,
Yeah,
but, if Henderson could be the hero, if Stevenson's the hero, that gets real nasty, and this is the scenario I'm looking the least forward to, so I almost don't even wanna bring it up because if Stevenson is the one who wins them this game, he's gonna have a big role again next year, and I don't really see a lot of swapping happen that we're hoping for in the fantasy community.
yeah.
I don't know, maybe people aren't hoping for that next year. I am, but,
The
I
one. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I have vested interest, that's it. So you're good.
It could tell a lot. I think it won't take a whole lot to tell a lot because the Seahawks run defense is so good that if any running back shows up, that's encouragement. I think the one thing I can confidently say is that Drake May as a fantasy quarterback is not going anywhere.
True.
He's going to shoot up draft boards. He might get overdrafted, sure, but I feel like he's really proved himself as a rusher and a passer that he's probably going to finish as a top 5 quarterback again next season. There's no reason to doubt that, especially if the O line gets even better.
Yeah, O-line gets better if they add any pass catchers because it's not like he has had a wide room to work with. It's not. It's a pretty gnarly wide receiver room, all things considered, but it's
Yeah,
worked.
there's depth, but there's no like there's no games where like Sam Darnold's throwing to JSN 12 times and Darnold has a great fantasy game because he threw to JSN 12 times. Drake May doesn't have that. He's just been consistent.
Exactly. We got like the Packers light here, right? Where like the Packers have all these like wide receiver 2 talents, whereas the Patriots like we got these wide receiver 3 talents. We can do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I guess the answer was yes. So they're here. Well, this is the scary part. And I've talked about this before. This team having this much success always worries me fantasy wise because what if we're seeing a transition to wide receiver by committee?
You mean like just in the NFL?
Yeah. Like maybe that's what we're feeling with the wide receivers and all their stocks going down is we're watching a slow transition to wide receiver by committee where these big names aren't as important.
I feel like it's been kind of polarized where you look at like a team like I mean the Seahawks and JSN and hyper targeted like easy first round wide receiver pick, but then there's a drop off because these other teams are having success with the opposite where there's a wide receiver by committee. There's not many teams, Bengals notwithstanding, there's not many teams that have like two, maybe three like really solid startable fantasy receivers. Even teams of talent like the Bears, like that we saw the ups and downs of DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. Like as talented as they are, like that's still a wide receiver by committee, 100%.
Mhm.
And neither of those names are like super tantalizing for fantasy.
Right, you have to like, I don't even know if level up is a thing at this point for some of these teams, right? Because what's the purpose of having that alpha if not having the alphas working?
Yeah.
Like, do you for the teams that lost, like, let's talk about the Packers, right? For just a quick second. When they lost in the not in the Super Bowl, wow, in the playoffs, um, was it because they didn't have a wide receiver that blew up? I don't think so necessarily, right? Like, that didn't feel like the real issue there.
I mean,
Like
I mean, Jacobs being injured was probably the big reason they lost that game.
mhm.
Um, but like you said, like yeah, the receiver room, like they still put up a lot of points against the Bears. And like that was the game that Matthew Golden got his first touchdown. So like they were even using him.
Right, and if you're they were like, like one ordinary play away from Caleb Williams or one ordinary Caleb Williams play away from winning that game.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like I don't see reasons for these teams to change, and that's what's really hurting me is like I want you to get off wide receiver by committee because it's not good for fantasy.
No.
It is proving to be good for the NFL, which scares me because as we see more teams adopt that, yikes.
It
Um,
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't diminish from like the superstars, but the superstars are very few and far between.
yeah, exactly. And you well, okay. Let's transition a little bit here.
Mhm,
Let's start talking about next year. Okay. Um, I think let's go ahead and start with our top fives, and this is not necessarily a structured list with stats based on it. So if you're listening to this, and you're like, "Well, that doesn't make sense." You can't. This is low key hot takes,
mhm.
but high key top five. So let's go ahead and start with wide receivers because we're talking about wide receivers, right? So you say it doesn't diminish the superstars a lot. Who are these superstars in your mind that aren't going to be diminished? Who are the top five for next year?
There's I think there's 4 names that come to mind that I think are kind of untouchable in a way. But, I do have some faith in a number 5 who I think will be number 5, but maybe we haven't seen blow up as much. But, I've gone back and forth between my number 1, but I think my number 1 receiver next year is honestly Puka.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
the only hesitancy I have there is, again, the possible injury history. Like, even this year, we saw it. But I think with Puka, I think that as great as Devontae Adams was this year, I don't expect a repeat of that next year. And, he, like, was just barely behind JSN in terms of yards, and he missed, like, 3 or 4 games maybe even, and he gets the targets, he gets the big plays, he gets the touchdowns, he gets the red zone looks, and unless the Rams, like, draft a first round receiver this year, which could happen, I don't see Puka I don't think we've seen Puka hit his ceiling yet.
Well, let me follow up on this one directly. So Stafford is mulling retirement.
Mhm,
Do you think Stafford retiring changes your opinion on that? So let's say Stafford does retire. And I'll just because I love to talk about it. Stafford was the same guy who made Megatron a thing. He did had Cooper Cup during his historic season. So you can't I think it would be unwise to ignore the impact of Stafford on the wide receiver room because he likes to hyper target players.
100%.
But do you think that changes like how far would that drop Puka in your mind? Or if any?
Well, I don't think that Stafford will retire, but I think the Rams are a functional enough organization that if they were quarterback needy next year, I could see them, either pulling off another great trade like we saw for Stafford. Like maybe Joe Burrow's disgruntled or something like that. Basically I just think that they would be able to competently enough finish or replace Stafford, maybe not to his level, but they wouldn't just like throw in like a Ty Simpson, and throw him to the
D
wolves kind of thing.
do you think that they could okay, this is
Yeah.
super hypothetical. We're on, like, level 2 of hypothetical. If they could get Joe Burrow, that's disgusting, first off. If you could mix Joe Burrow with the Rams right now and have McVay and Burrow for years and years and years and years and years, you're never getting rid of the Rams.
No.
They survive forever. Super hypothetical. But I think if they lose Stafford, they find a way to bring Flacco in, and Flacco comes back for another year. And he will hyper target a player.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's
I would be shocked if Stafford retires this year.
yeah, he got so close. But yeah, the only thing that lends any credence to it in my mind is the back issue from the offseason. Because who knows what that really was. And the fact that he was basically like 50-50 for the first week and then came out and he played the whole season. Good on him. But that's the worry for me, really.
Yeah, I mean, we just didn't see it during the regular season, that injury show up at all. But again, he is like almost 40, so he's not gonna.
Yeah.
It's not something that he's gonna shake off like another quarterback might.
Yeah. Okay. Continue on your list.
Okay. So my number two, I mean, it's kind of arbitrary. I think my 2A, 2B is, I think it's between JSN and Jamar. Um, I don't really have a lot of hope for the Bengals, getting back to the Super Bowl or back to where they were a couple years ago. But if Burrow's starting and Jamar's starting, like even this season, the Bengals had a very disappointing season. Jamar Chase did not. Besides that, like couple game sample
Mhm.
size with Jake Browning, he was a superstar still. I think even though maybe a little underrated when you look at the fantasy year overall. And I think JSN has just solidified himself as like a top 3 receiver in the league. And we know Darnold will be back, and we know Darnold hyper targets him. And I think that even an additional receiver to the Seahawks team is not going to hurt JSN, because like look at Puka and Devontae, like they coexisted incredibly, and I think JSN and Puka are at about the same level of talent. Um, so I think my confident big 3 are Puka, JSN, and Jamar Chase, and
Okay.
I'd say put them
Mhm.
in any order.
I with JSN, do you think losing Clint Kubiak is going to impact him significantly, or do you think that he's kind of his level of talent makes him offensive coordinator proof?
I think it could, but I have faith in the Seahawks to hire a really good. I think they're just so managed. They're managed so well, but I think they're gonna maybe not replace Kubiak to the same level, because that would be hard. But I don't think they're gonna just like pull a Cardinals and hire a Nathaniel Hackett. Like they're actually
Yeah,
gonna get
yeah,
someone who's worthy of um, an OC position for a Super Bowl team to come in there. So
yeah. It's
yeah.
so funny. Okay, give me you can give me like 2 or 3 names if you're like stuck on a few for your 3, 4, 5 or 4 or 5, excuse me.
I do want to give them an honorable mention, just because it's a headache. I can't put either in my top 5, even though it's close. But like CD Lamb, George Pickens, I don't know. Like I have faith in Pickens, but is he going to be a Cowboy? Can he repeat that success with Lamb again? I mean, and same question of Lamb. Like Lamb has proven himself to be like one wide receiver 1 overall. But if Pickens is there, like we didn't see enough. We haven't seen a full season of them together in the system to know if they're actually worthy of being like both wide receiver 1s. Like they were when they were on the field for sure, but like there's a lot of question marks. But I would want to put Amon Ra here. I think there's some bad vibes with the Lions, and the Drew Petzing hire doesn't concern me per se, but there's something there. I'm honestly gonna maybe do a little hot take. There's 2 guys I want to put in my top 5. One I'm a little more confident in, but um, okay, maybe wide receiver 4, Drake London.
Okay, okay.
I
We
just he's I don't know, I think this Falcons team has Stefanski coming in, and say what you will about that hire and like what he's done with offenses before. Um, I think that we've seen a lot of just incredible wide receivers thrive even when the run game is so elite. I mean, like look at JSN and the Seahawks. And Bijan, I think, will probably be a better fantasy player than Drake London, but I think this is the year that London could really level up. Um, if the quarterback play is there, which I hope it is, but it's a question mark. But I think if he has competent quarterback play, he's absolutely could be a top 5 receiver.
yeah, yeah. Not shocking to me. That makes sense. And who else you got?
Okay, I'll do 2 more just real quick. One hot take, one really spicy take. My first hot take is I think that if he comes back from the ACL tear, um, healthy Malik Neighbors and Jackson Dart could be insane. Like,
Oh, if he's healthy at the start of the season, he's top 3 for me.
really? Okay, okay. I was a
Mhm.
little hesitant. I want to put him like pretty firmly at 4. I have more faith or more excitement about Neighbors than London, but there's just a lot more question marks. But I think Dart can absolutely feed him as wide receiver 1.
If
Um,
him and Scatterboo are back and they can get that running game going, that offense is gonna be awesome.
yeah. So if he's back and he's really healthy, like I think I could pretty confidently put him at 4 number or at number 4 right now. Um, my spicy take, very spicy. And this is just looking at the upward progression of this team in the past couple years since Dave Canales has been there. It's Tet Miroa McMillan.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
the recipe is there. We see so many great receivers break out year 2. I mean, JSN is a great example. Um, I can't think of others. I think CD Lamb was. I think his year 2 was his really big breakout year. He just has it. He's got the offense. It depends a lot on Bryce Young and his progress, sure, but like I don't know. There's just something there. There's a gut feeling, but there's also just that specific recipe for like a really huge breakout year. Year 2 receiver, top 10 pick, ascending offense, um, and especially if they make some good offseason moves like on the defense or just for team as a whole. Like I don't know. There's something there with McMillan. I think.
Yeah, I like that pick. I don't know that I'm necessarily that high yet, but I don't hate it. He really does have the skill set. He's got the amazing hands. He's got this large catch radius, so you don't have to be the exact perfect quarterback to get it into him all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is just helpful as far as fantasy goes. I'm not in disagreement with a lot of your names, so I'm not gonna go through a lot of them again. What I will say is that one name that is keeps popping up to me is like someone who I really want to put up here, and he had a bad end of season.
Hmm.
Um, but I could see this team really building the offense more around him this year, and maybe that changing things. Emeka Egbuka.
I
Um,
thought about
depending
that.
on depending on where Mike Evans, what happens with Mike Evans, if they like turn around and like, okay, you're the wide receiver, let's build around your skill set. You're gonna be the one. Godwin stays in the slot, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
He's someone who I can see having just a really great season and probably punching above his weight. Potential top 5. That's not someone I necessarily. It is a hot take, I suppose, at this point, but um,
well, the thing of Ibuka too is that it's not like he was having this spectacular start to the year and then he fell off because he got figured out. It wasn't like a gadget player or like had some gimmick that he was getting open because of XYZ. He just the whole team fell off. He wasn't being targeted as much. There was just the Bucks just really fell off, and I don't think that was a reflection on Ibuka. I'm saying he didn't get figured out.
right, right, and there was a lot of health issues on this team. Like if we had the whole healthy year with Bucky Irving, and you could have taken some of the pressure off of
Yeah,
Baker, what would this team have looked like at the end of the year? I think Emeka showed enough for me in the beginning of the season to say like if he can get past it and be consistent the whole way through, this is going to be he could jump, he could make the leap.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good pick. I thought about him too.
I also I this is maybe me just hoping things into the future, right? I think if CJ Stroud learns from his mistakes at any point and starts really working on his game and like takes it seriously this offseason, I think that could be low key a great an offense that has better production and we might see Nico Collins jump.
It could. I do worry about Nico's injury history too, which again, maybe feels hypocritical because I pointed out other players, but I don't know. Nico is a little bit older than some of the guys I mentioned. I'm just not fully sold on him yet, but I'm also not fully sold on giving up on CJ Stroud yet either. So
I think that this the way people are talking about CJ right now is hopefully the wake up call that you do have to go out and get better. Like your rookie season was phenomenal. You
mhm.
came in, you were really hot. You still have to continue to improve your game. You can't rely on just like being that dude forever.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that that's exactly what he did, but I'm saying like this is the like, hey, do it. They're talking about replacing you, man. Like you, the guy who came up and blew up in their franchise and you looked amazing. They're talking about potentially replacing you in the media. Like, get out there and work on your game. You got to come out and show better.
yeah,
And Nico's would be the clear beneficiary mostly from that. I mean, unless you see Higgins or Noel take a step up, in which case, that could still be good for Nico, honestly.
Could be. I think it could. I think that he needs some more talent around him to like start showing out to take the pressure off him is the one because like we saw some good rookies from Higgins and Noel, but not enough that the defense is gonna like turn their attention to them just to like lay off of Nico.
Yeah, right. They're like, "Ah, let's take it easy on him. Let's go take up Noel."
Do you have any receiver that you want to mention that is like we talked about hot takes, but this maybe is a guy that like is flying under the radar and it could have like a not the best example, but like a Chris Olave like surprise top 5 season that isn't even getting considered in the first round.
Um, okay, give me a second for this one
Okay. Because
because
like
I
Abuka and McMillan would fit this, but again, they're year 2 players. We haven't seen like them really show out. And Chris Olave kind of came out of nowhere in some ways to like blow up. Or another great example would be George Pickens because no one was projecting him to be top 5, and he was.
yeah, it's hard because we talked about a lot of the players who I might like put into this category already. Um, and the question marks I have for the other players I'm thinking of are pretty like large. There is a name, and everyone's gonna roll their eyes because you don't usually see late career breakouts like this. But I think that again, teams going into the offseason see what their strengths are
Hmm.
and what could work. I'm gonna say not top 5. Okay, I'm not giving him that ceiling. I want to be clear.
Okay.
I'm still really liking where Jacoby Myers is gonna be at with this team on the Jaguars. Like, I think he could be a sneaky wide receiver 1 next year, and people will still treat him like they've always treated him because he's been around. He's been such a known commodity, and he, like, once again did good.
Hmm.
But this team has enough talent that he's not the only guy, but he has such sure hands, and I think Trevor Lawrence is a really trust-based quarterback a lot of the time.
Hmm.
And when you talk about, yeah, maybe the other guys who are more talented, but they've dropped every pass he's thrown at them. And, Travis Hunter will be back, but Travis Hunter is projecting to play more cornerback role now is what I'm hearing.
I've heard that. I think that makes sense too.
It does. So if that's the case, I really think Jacoby Myers might be this like really low key amazing pick next year.
Do you think that will only happen if Brian Thomas Jr. continues his downward trajectory?
I don't think it has to at this point. I think they like Jacoby Myers there a lot, and he kind of helped get them through that period of, where like they thought they had one of the better wide receiver rooms in the league, and it didn't turn out that way. I think Brian Thomas can get back on track, but I don't think Brian Thomas is going to have the same ceiling that he had when it was Mac Jones throwing the ball. I just don't see it anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and that leaves enough space for growth that I think that he could still be that guy. He could just get peppered with targets and be the league leader and targets in general. Like I could really see that from someone like Jacoby Myers.
And especially because we saw it, like obviously he was a midseason trade, but he came in to the Jaguars with such um skill that like he was part of that upward trend. So that the chemistry of Lawrence not only came to fruition after the trade, but like it led to success. So there's that there too. It's not just like, okay, maybe he vibes well chemistry wise with Lawrence, but like they immediately had good chemistry, and because of that, the Jaguars started going on a big win streak. So there's that piece of
I
it.
mean, Trevor Lawrence started getting like props. He got to take a picture of himself with grills on, and it wasn't awful taste because he was winning and he had the team behind him. And when did that happen? It was after Jacoby Myers got traded to the team, and suddenly the team started clicking.
Yep, yep.
I don't think that like those things are all that matters, but I think they matter a lot. Because Trevor Lawrence had been talked about pretty gnarly at the beginning of the year. You may not remember it at this point, but a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's the same old Trevor Lawrence. He's not going to get better. This is just who we got." And now at this point, it's like he's a good quarterback, and that's a big change in talk. And you bet he hears that and feels it.
He was arguably the best quarterback in all of December, like on a per game basis. Like he was just no interceptions, and he wasn't throwing picks. He was throwing up like 3 touchdown average a game. I think it was like just really going off.
Hmm.
Um, so I like Myers to watch at the very least as a sleeper next year, or a sleeper that probably will get drafted like round 10, 11, and could like return like round 4 or 5 value. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I do wanna mention, this is the hot take season, so, like, if you're like, "What are you talking?" The hot takes, man. This is the player who I'm like, "I think this could be great." Um,
I will say that if Myers had been there at the beginning of the year and had played as well as he was, he would have finished as a top 10 receiver in
mhm,
fantasy.
mhm.
So,
And I really think that unless I'm wrong about this and other people are feeling the same way I'm feeling, but I just haven't seen that chatter, um, he's gonna go in round 7, 8 again next year, and I think that he'll be a value, like a crazy value.
could be good. My pick, like, there's a couple really big hot takes, but one is similar logic to Myers, and one is a hot take or just rapid projection. My first guy would be Matthew Golden. Just kidding, just kidding. Yeah, no, my first guy. I think that I was pretty low on him this year just because of like the boomer bust games. But I think that honestly, AJ Brown getting traded notwithstanding, I think Devonta Smith, like, if his offense transforms in a way that Devonta Smith isn't just getting like either 10 or 2 targets a game, I think Smith has proven to have the talent to be a wide receiver one on a team. And I think that even if AJ Brown is still here, if Brown's play kind of falls off or continues to not go back to where it was, Smith could emerge as the wide receiver one. And the Eagles' offense is so volatile with getting a new coordinator every year. But like, if you look at Smith's best games, he has proven that he can be like a legit wide receiver one, and he won the Heisman in college. Like he absolutely has that potential. I hear people talk about like T Higgins as being like the best wide receiver one that plays the two role, and T Higgins is great, but like Smith does not have the same injury history as Higgins, and he's on just I think in terms of skill position, like great offense. Um, so I think Smith's one to watch. Is like maybe he sneaks into like he's already had great fantasy years, but maybe next year is the year he like really breaks out and becomes like an absolute alpha, like top 5 fantasy player. I think it could happen.
Sure, I could absolutely see that. Now, let me throw a name at you
Yeah.
that we haven't talked about at all, but is going to be in the conversation for top 5.
Okay.
What are we doing with Justin Jefferson? What's up with Justin Jefferson?
He's hard because like he obviously he fell off hard this year because of quarterback play, but he didn't have the greatest season on his own. Like even
It's true. If you watched it, he had so many drops.
so many drops, and that wasn't like JJ's fault. You know,
Yeah, like there were games where people were either piling in on JJ McCarthy, but I saw Justin Jefferson drop a few easy passes, and it's like, what's up? So he's a name that's curious because he's got the talent. I mean, we've seen it, right? Like it's there, but at the same point, ki- what's up? Like he was deemed quarterback proof. Apparently, that was way too early to say.
I mean, maybe Nick Mullins and him just had great chemistry, and he's not quarterback proof, he just happened to be good with Mullins.
This is the Mac Jones thing happening again, right? Like
Yeah.
I
I, I was just gonna say, I think that if the community starts to view that similarly or is cautious, then he falls to like the mid to late second round. That's great value. But
yeah,
if he's still going like late first, I would stay away from that.
that's a little spooky at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's move on to running backs. We'll go through the skill groups first. So, do you have an early top 5 running backs for next year?
Yeah. Okay. I think that similar to this year, I think that Bijan and Gibbs are the 1A, 1B for me. Um, there's changes to both the coaching staffs uh on the offense for the Falcons and the Lions, but I think it's becoming more and more likely with the Lions that Montgomery maybe isn't there next year. And I almost don't want to even mention that because Gibbs's best fantasy games this year came from his work as a receiver. So
Mhm.
even if you get a new OC in there and Petzing, like Petzing proved in Arizona that he values his best players, and that can only bode well for Gibbs. And by extension, St. Brown, of course. But with Gibbs in fantasy, like I just it's just he's not quite to the level of CMC in terms of his, scrimmage yards, him being such an anomaly there. Um, but he really could be. He could have a CMC type season like what we saw from CMC this year because he's younger. He's playing behind a better offensive line, at least for now. Um, and he's just such a great pass catcher. Like in PPR, like Gibbs, just total no brainer. And I just said all that about Gibbs, but apply the exact same logic to Bijan. I just think that in order to get a great RB1 in fantasy, or at least one that you feel really confident in drafting, you want to have the combination of proven health and that scrimmage yards, pass catching upside, and that's Bijan and Gibbs. Like
Mhm.
easy, I think they're the easy top two for me right now.
Now, is there a scenario that, like, changes your order here? Like, let's say Monty goes, Algier stays. Does that matter to you, or Algier goes, Monty stays?
No.
No, okay. Who you got for number 3?
Um, this is where it kind of gets maybe a little bit tricky because I want to give the faith to James Cook to have another great season because he's had two back to back great ones. There is some obviously volatility with the Bills, but um, Joe Brady's still there. They haven't gotten that legit wide receiver one yet, and they're not going to get a player good enough to like tank James Cook's value. So I don't think I'm going to put him in like the top three, but I think I want to still put him in the top five. He's like one of the safer picks. Um, you could throw CMC in there as well, but
CMC is so scary. He has a full healthy season. What does that mean for next year? I get it. Like, what can happen? And also, his rushing efficiency was pretty awful.
we're at the point now too where like we can actually start being concerned about not his injury history per se, but his health, or excuse me, not his injury history per se, but his age. Like
hmm
Derrick Henry notwithstanding, like the running backs do hit that cliff.
He
And
kind of, I mean, outside of being used in every single play for the 49ers this season, he kind of like he low key a little bit looked like he hit that cliff.
yeah, because his best games on the stretch, I believe, came from his receiving ability, which is
hmm
still going to be there.
hmm
Don't fade him out of the first round. I would say in fantasy next year, like cautiously proceed, but like he's still going to be a first round pick next year because of his receiving ability. I want to put my eggs in one basket, throw my chips in, and honestly, confidently say that Marion Hampton might be my RB3.
Yeah, he was gonna be the name I'd mentioned if you didn't.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
and
I
and
love
I
that pick.
I want to clarify too that like I want to put him as my RB3, not just like a top five pick, but like above the other names, like even a
hmm
Saquon Barkley. Like I would take Hampton right now over him. Combination of he's back and healthy for a full season. Kamani Vidal does not scare me at all about getting scared. Like if you're worried about Vidal and not worried about like Algier or Montgomery, like what are you doing?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
like not even comparable to me. And then McDaniel coming in is just perfect marriage for a Hampton skill set. Yeah.
I'm so on board next year. As we've talked, it upset me so bad that McDaniels was there. Um, because he's gonna be good for this team. Like, this team is gonna have an amazing running game. I can almost guarantee it. McDaniel is a very smart mind for running the ball. Like, you've seen it with the Dolphins year after year with the Achane. One of the big reasons I'm not as high on Achane right now is because McDaniel's gone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that ability to find a way to get these guys into space all the time, even when your team stinks, you getting these guys into space so they can still produce is there. Marion Hampton looked awesome. He was a rookie. He can get better still.
Yep.
And if that O line is even a smidge healthier than it was at the end of
Which
this last season,
which is almost a guarantee.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he's gonna be an awesome pick. He's
Yeah.
amazing. So yeah, I'm right there with you, right there.
Um, the rest of my so I'd probably put James Cook in my top 5 still. I think that he just
hmm
has it. Again, we can split hairs and be like, well, he's not gonna have 3 great back-to-back seasons after having 2, but like, why not? Like,
Yeah,
what has
yeah.
changed? He's not like he's old. He's still in his prime.
The only thing that I am worried about with Cook, and this is that talking narrative, we're talking like vibe based worries, right? So don't necessarily fully listen to me, especially if you disagree with this. Is that with the way this last season ended with Sean McDermott getting fired and the way this offseason started, I'm really worried that the vibes at the end of this last game were bad, bad. And like that can impact the whole team, especially if Josh Allen is involved in the vibes being this bad.
Yeah.
Um, I could see that really having an impact on the team as a whole. And the reason why that matters isn't that I don't think James Cook is good and can still produce, is that the touchdown total is an outlier. So if
Yeah.
he scores less touchdowns, it will hurt his production a little bit.
Yeah. I agree. And for that 4 or 5 spot, it's pretty close. I think you gotta mention Jonathan Taylor in there for
Mhm.
real. I mean,
Yeah.
speaking of teams that had, bad vibes at the end of the season, I just think that Taylor is someone that I kind of faded at the beginning of the year because the Colts offense was projected to be pretty bad. But I think that was just kind of ignoring how competent Shane Steichen can be. And, Daniel Jones, he's probably not starting week 1, but I do think that Steichen's system with Taylor is pretty foolproof. And Taylor was healthy this year for the most part. I'm not really worried about him hitting that cliff just yet. So I think I would take Taylor over like, a Saquon. Um, just because we saw Saquon kind of, fall again, it's hard. James Cook, Saquon, and Taylor are all in that 4, 5, 6 range for me. I think Saquon's going to have a better season, but I think my top 3 is what I'm feeling best about.
Did what do you think about Brees Hall next year? Do you like the Jets are an awful, awful team, but Brees looked really pretty good. I actually meant to ask this about Garrett Wilson as well, but I forgot.
Mm.
Like, are either of these two guys people you see hitting top 10?
Yes and no. I think that the Jets are just a wild card until we figure out any semblance of understanding of the quarterback position. Because we've seen Garrett Wilson like be in some ways quarterback proof, but I think that if I'm taking a bet here, I would probably have more faith in Brees Hall than Wilson, just because the Jets O line is legitimately very, very good. Um, and if the Jets pay Brees Hall, that shows that they really want to use him a lot. And I think if the other option to that is if Brees Hall goes to like the Chiefs or something, that's also a pretty slam dunk pick. So
Mhm.
I think that Brees Hall, um, I was kind of wary where he was going this year. Where I saw him going like early third round, like late second round in some drafts, and I was like, that's a bit much. But if he goes there next year, like, oh yeah, sign me up.
Mhm. I can see that. And then Chase Brown.
Uh, he did have such a great end of the year.
Yeah, it's real hard with the Bengals because it's like, is it just going to be a repeat of what we just saw?
Yeah,
And if it is, like, on one hand, you do want Chase Brown because he did great at the end of the year. On the other hand, what happens with Burrow? I mean, like, for real, like it. Burrow looks so despondent, right? And that's really hard to ignore something like that when you're drafting because we're all drafting based on, like whatever we think about a team. To see someone who looks that despondent as your main quarterback, and he elevates the team clearly.
yeah, oh yeah,
And then you also see Chase Brown, who is also very clearly reliant on at least competent quarterback play.
yes,
A little
exactly. Yeah,
scary.
yeah, because we didn't see Chase Brown do much of anything until Flacco was in there consistently, for a couple games, and then of course Burrow coming back.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it depends on Burrow. I would have more faith in Chase Brown than I do like Devon Achane next year, at least right now.
Yeah, it stinks. Achane is such a good talent, but losing McDaniel is so big for him because if he's not the heartbeat of that offense, then what does it mean?
It doesn't mean much.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's not like the backups are like terrible. I can see someone coming in and using Ollie Gordon a lot more, you
Yeah,
know.
Ollie Gordon, Jalen Wright, like
Mhm.
it's the O line for the Dolphins that scares me too. If it was like a coordinator like McDaniel leading, but this team like maybe was kind of bad on paper, but they still had like the O line of the Jets with Fashanu and Membu in there. Like that would be one thing, but the Dolphins don't have any standouts on the O line.
Yeah, right. The last name I'll mention is Scatabo, just because if he comes back and everything goes as well as it sounds like it should. We did see Scatabo really start. It's when Jackson Dart came in, we saw Scatabo look. He was fun to watch, and he was really good at getting touchdowns.
Yeah,
So I don't know that he has upside to like top 5 because he doesn't seem. I'm being a little hesitant because he does not the fastest dude, right? And he broke his ankle. So like, is he gonna be faster after that? No, no way. But
no,
also, if that offense levels up and they're in the red zone often, I could see him having a real nice season just based on touchdowns.
I could as well, and we know Harbaugh likes to run the ball. Like that kind of almost gets me. This is really way too early, but it kind of gets me excited for like what Harbaugh sees in Tyrone Tracy. like,
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
that he would just automatically go running back by committee because he hasn't really historically done that, at least not like with a talent like a Henry or to a lesser extent a Scatabo there. But, Tyrone Tracy was a great pass catcher, and he had a good rookie season. So I'm excited about the Giants' run game. I'm still cautiously optimistic on Scatabo just because of how he plays, and there's some hesitation there, I think, for me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Any other names you want to mention here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two that I could get excited about is like potential top five guys. Actually, okay, I'll mention three because they're all going to be your two players, and one I was excited about, but I've seen him in the playoffs and his usage is like RJ Harvey, like he's got the talent, but they were running back by committee pretty heavy in the playoffs, and that kind of makes me wonder like what is that going to look like next year? Um, but the two other second year players that I'm excited about is Ashton Genty for one. Like Clint Kubiak's coming in, the Raiders O line can only get better. The quarterback play can only get better, and Genty and just with a terrible O line, um, and just bad vibes all around, as you know, like he still put up nearly 900 rushing yards. So if they can upgrade there, like there's no reason Genty can't take a year two leap. Like it's not fade Genty. Like he has much more upside than like a Chase Brown or an A Chan coming into this year.
We hadn't got to the hot takes yet, but I'll give you my two hot takes, and this is 100% homer based. I'm sorry, it's just what it is. One of them was Genty finishes as a top 3 running back first year in
Yeah,
Clint Kubiak system.
could happen.
I watching the offensive systems for the Raiders this year as I did, they were broken, completely broken. And then Geno Smith was also broken. Like it was bad. And so if you're replacing the coach with an offensive coach who we've seen can create something with a team that hasn't looked as good prior, and then also you're replacing your quarterback with anyone that's not Geno Smith, really
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
point, like for real. I don't Fernando Mendoza, it's almost certainly going to be him. And like even if he's bad, almost can't be as bad as Geno Smith.
No, he really can't. And like that, just bringing it like Gino coming in was exciting change for the Raiders, but like it's not the same as drafting the 101 quarterback and the vibes that brings to a
Mhm.
team. Like it's not even comparable. Um, and I think if Genty has like and Genty didn't have a terrible year, like I said, like if Genty has a worse year in fantasy or in real life, but in fantasy next year, that's on him, not the Raiders. Like there's nowhere to go but up with his
Mhm.
level of talent and what they're going to do around him offensively with Kubiak, Mendoza, presumably O-line upgrades, a healthy Brock Bowers. Like there is nothing pointing towards like, okay, Genty will only take a slight step up. Like if he doesn't take a enough of a step up in fantasy and finishes like a top 10 player, which he was close to, that's probably on Genty. There's something to look at
Mhm.
there.
Mhm. And I would guess that there's probably not something on Genty because what we saw was a team that was catastrophically bad, in my opinion. Anyways, the team failed, and he didn't necessarily fail. He looked like he was doing the things he needed to do. I mean, he was breaking tackles left and right for 1 yard. What more can you ask a guy
What,
to
what
do?
more? What else could he have done? Yeah.
Whenever he only had to break one tackle, he had a really nice gain. But usually he's breaking two tackles, for 1 yard, and it's just like, what is going on here? This offensive line coached by Pete Carroll's son, who apparently didn't coach them at all.
The-
That I'm sorry, it's the whole thing. You read up about it. You don't have to hear me talk about it for half an hour. I think that there's a chance for just a huge leap here, like to go from this like okay season to an amazing season immediately afterwards.
I mean, we were so excited on Genty coming into the year. Like, just keep that same energy. Like, look at it. Like, he really wasn't disappointing. He was, but he wasn't. The Raiders were disappointing, but
Mhm.
he wasn't disappointing. And I mean, if he was like your RB1 and you got him in the first round, sure, he was, but he didn't tank your team. And if you had a good enough team around him at his like lowest floor of a rookie year on the Raiders 2025, think of what he could do as your RB1 or RB2 in his second year.
Well, it's like okay, so if sometimes you get in a car wreck and you weren't driving the car,
Hmm.
that's Genty this year. You know what I mean? He got into a car wreck, but what are you supposed to do? You can't blame him. He wasn't driving the car. This was the whole rest of the team just completely falling apart around him.
Yeah.
like, I think the GM for the Raiders came out in the first press conference after they fired Pete Carroll. He said, "We have to do better for Genty." Like, this guy showed up and he put his heart on the field, and what did we do? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Like, we failed around him.
Well, and I think the biggest or one of the most optimistic things about him getting better is like part of the reason or part of the way they failed him, at least in the middle of the season, was that they weren't giving him carries. It wasn't just that he was performing poorly; they just weren't targeting him. They weren't giving him carries, and that's he didn't have a chance to show that potential. He just wasn't getting used, which is crazy.
Insane. I think there was a game where he had like 6 carries the whole entire game. And it's like, I don't care if you're up, if you're down, whatever. You drafted this guy 6th overall. He's easily top 2 talent on your team offensively. Like, because you could make an argument for against Bowers, but I won't.
No,
Bowers has shown too much at this point. But come on, like, give the guy carries. If you want to get back in a game, I don't care. Give him carries. That's how you do it. You have to give it to your good players. And I don't see really a good pathway forward for the Raiders to get an amazing wide receiver that's going to change the makeup of this team. Like, Bowers is the wide receiver 1.
which is fine. You can do
Mhm.
that. Yeah, you can get away with that.
Yeah, so it's like this guy is gonna be used in the red zone heavily.
Yeah, really, really nowhere to go but up. And there's just again, like I don't remember what his finish was overall, but he still finishes I believe a high end RB2, which is pretty damn good for that team. um, the one other player I want to mention that I just have not heard a lot of chatter about. Again, it's early, but um, he's a player that is losing his head coach and offensive play caller, but he's getting a new head coach that comes from a very run first team, and I don't have a lot of confidence in this team at all or the quarterback play. But let's talk about Quinshon Judkins and him getting faded for no real reason.
Well, he broke his leg pretty bad. Like, do we think that, like, that happened late into the season? Like, I don't know about that's the question to me, right? Quinshon's in,
Mm,
except for that leg break was pretty gnarly. So I wonder and worry about how that's gonna impact the next season.
okay, I would agree with that mentally. I think that could affect his mental game, but a broken leg, like I looked up it's a fractured fibula in his leg or whatever, wherever that is. I don't know, I forget. But his I think his timeline of recovery was like 4 to 6 months, which would put him right at the start of training camp. And I mean, he missed most of training camp this past year and didn't start right away. And he came back. He came in immediately without that offseason conditioning and like immediately proved himself. So if he can do that and then come back, even the injury, like the mental piece of the injury, I think will be key to look at and maybe be hesitant on. But he was looking so incredibly good before he got injured on a terrible team of Shadur Sanders. I don't think Sanders is going to be the quarterback next year. I mean, I don't know if it's going to get better, but I
Do,
think Judkins proved himself to be pretty QB proof.
do
Um,
you mean Pro Bowl QB Shador Sanders?
Son of Hall of Famer, Pro Bowl QB.
He
Uh,
he got to play the Pro Bowl and he threw a pick on the last play of the game. That's
he
pretty
got picked
awesome.
off by Kevin Byard too, which I liked.
See,
Uh,
it was amazing. And then he came out and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna dominate the league next year. I got you."
Pro Bowl is
Uh,
such a joke. Oh my god. I Also the score was like 52-44. Like, what are they even doing? Like, what is this? What? I don't watch it, so I don't know. Is there different rules? Like,
it's flag football, so it's not even like they're not tackling. They're just rushing one person,
okay, yeah, okay,
tossing the ball
that
over the
makes
top.
sense. Okay, but still, like,
So
come on.
so Todd Monken is the head coach there. It's not that I don't like the Quinshon Judkins pick because the way Quinshon was used last year was also a little bit confusing. There were games where he kind of just disappeared, and
Yeah,
then when Flacco wasn't the quarterback, there were also games where the opposing defense looked at him and said, "You're the only person we care about. I
yeah,
don't
that's
none of the rest of this matters. So I'm going to just focus in on you." And he had terrible efficiency games. Can't blame him for those, really. Monken, as we've seen with the Ravens in the recent past, can put together a pretty awesome run game.
yeah.
So the big question mark here is, can whoever the quarterback ends up being become big enough threat that Judkins is allowed to actually get the space he needs to work?
Yeah, I mean, that is a question. I think that I keep saying there's nowhere to go for but up for a lot of these teams, and I guess I can't really say that about the Browns. So I'm not gonna say that here, but I think that I think that the Browns could have a competent enough run game regardless of the quarterback to make it work. I am a bit worried about the Browns O-line and then not addressing that because they have a lot of free agents coming up. So something to look at. But and I want to say I'm not putting Judkins ahead of Scatabo, but I think that I'm more concerned about, even though it was earlier in the season, I'm more concerned about Scadabo's injury and what that looks like year two than I am Judkins. At least
Fair. I
I
mean,
think so.
I I see it the other way around, but you know what? With his injuries, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going off of reports from what I've heard from these dudes. Like, it does sound like they're both on track to play. And Scatabo had his ankle was just completely shattered, and then Judkins also had a knee that would look like it was going
It's,
the wrong direction. So
yeah.
it's just gnarly all the way around.
I
It's hard.
yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's good to be cautious about both, and I think that will perhaps positively for fantasy drop their draft position a bit, which could be good. Um, I just can't get over Scadabo's exciting but dangerous play style. Judkins just runs much more like a traditional running back, and not saying he's doing it. He's like, oh, he's doing it the right way, but like he kind of is. You know, he plays it a lot safer. He plays a power, but he's not like running headfirst into defenders, and he just seems like the kind of player that is less likely to get injured. And I know that's unpredictable, but God, if you watch Scatabo run, like it's kind of predictable.
It's so funny. But the thing with Scatabo is an injury like completely unrelated to the way he runs. It's wild to me. Like, Uh, the one comp, and I didn't get to see all of his years in the lucid state because I was a little bit too young. But Mike Allstott and the way he ran reminds me so much of Scatabo, and Mike Allstott was so awesome. But it was just the touchdowns, right? It wasn't anything else. And Mike Allstott was a fullback, so he also wasn't required to take the full load as far as running. But if you gave him the ball in the end zone, he was going to crush three people and get in. Yeah, and who knows? He's like, all NFL players are big, but this guy just makes everyone else look puny.
Just that, yeah, that dominant force that like if this guy has the ball, like defenders are gonna pay attention to him, but like good luck.
He's like, I'm gonna get headbutt. It's gonna hurt. Oh gosh, okay, here we go. And this guy's apparently he doesn't have a neck or whatever. He makes all sorts of funny decisions. I just like Scatabo as a person.
I do. He's fun. He's very fun.
He's very goofy in like the same way as like a Gronk is very goofy, right? Where you watch him and you're just like, I don't know. I don't know that he knows what he's talking about at all at any point, and that makes it kind of just awesome for some
Well,
reason.
he's so excited about whatever he's saying. You know, that's what. Yeah.
That's true. Let's talk quickly about quarterbacks. And if you have any quarterbacks, let's just say, do you have any hot takes on quarterback?
Um, I do want to say first, like we talked about this in the last episode, but like with the coaching changes between the big guys, like Lamar and Josh Allen, like QB1 is really up in the air right now. I cannot land on anything with that right now. Um, I think I don't know if it's a hot take, but I think that Jackson Dart having a Drake May type year feels very plausible. Especially with Harbaugh now there, like they have Neighbors and Scatabo, and if they draft another receiver, and like I, we just saw a lot of greatness from Dart, and some consistency for him because he had no consistency last year. Two coaches, injuries, Scatabo injury, Neighbors injury, no consistency. Any semblance of consistency, like I think, really bodes well for him to be like a top 5 quarterback, and I would put a decent amount of confidence in him finishing as a very clear QB1 next year. Um, Similar in terms of development, like I think Cam Ward with Brian Dayball and some actual like decent receivers could really go a long way for him. Um, I just think that because he was so disappointing this year, or the Titans offense was so disappointing that I don't see a reality where Cam Ward's getting drafted earlier in the 13th round. So he's like one of those guys you want to target late if you haven't drafted your quarterback, and that gets me excited. Um, Apart from that, like I mean, I still have faith in Caleb Williams to continue to ascend. So we've seen him do great in fantasy. Plenty to get excited about there. Trevor Lawrence like looked so good at the end of the
Mhm.
season, and I like we talked about with Jacoby Myers. I think that could absolutely continue. Um, the disappointing year for Cam Ward has kind of made me grow cautious of drafting rookie quarterbacks like Mendoza, but I mean, if Mendoza's throwing to Brock Bowers and uh, Ashton Genty, like that's just gets you kind of
Mhm,
excited.
mhm,
Like
mhm.
there's potential there.
Mendoza also I'm a Raiders fan, so I've seen a lot of Mendoza recently, but he seems very structured. That's not the right way to say it, but he seems like someone who's gonna come in and the ability. I think the chance for him to completely struggle is less.
Yeah.
He looks like he's pro ready, and he looks like a person who will learn systems very quick. And there's like all sorts of systems. He won't get a girlfriend until he's done with football.
Hmm.
He's like, I will not because that will distract me, and don't choose distractions. It just, crazy stuff, and that doesn't necessarily matter, but you have to remember these are people after all, right? And stuff like that does matter as far as like, can you come in, can you learn, can you slow down the game quick?
He's not going to fail because of lack of trying to. You know,
Yeah.
this is the
Hmm.
anti Jamarcus Russell, where
Yeah.
he's not, he's not
Thank goodness.
coming in as this 101 to the Raiders of all his confidence and all his athletic talent that he might view as like just serving him without putting in the work. Like Mendoza, like you can tell he puts in the work because of his work ethic. Obviously, I don't know. He reminds me a lot of like I've used this comparison before, but he reminds me like a lot of a Kirk Cousins or a Jared Goff in terms of like athletic ability and play style, but also just like in how they approach the offense. And like really seeming like leaders among men, like
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
there's a in there and like running this offense like a Kirk Cousins, but being an even younger Kirk Cousins with similarly incredible skill position players like Bowers to Jefferson is like there's just a really good recipe for like immediate success there.
Yeah, and I also like. Can you imagine if Goff? The big knock against Goff when he was getting drafted was like his complete failure of the Wonderlic, his basically inability he didn't necessarily want to do any of the like. I'm trying to be nice to Goff right now, right? But like he came out and everyone's like, "Wow, you scored like a 2 on the Wonderlic, dude." You like, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, I wrote my name down, so I did pretty good." And I think he's learned a lot since then, right? But like this seems like the opposite situation where it's like he has the physical set and he will have the mental set there with him as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then like the wonder like it could be hit or miss because like
Mhm.
obviously like Lamar Jackson did terribly on it as well, and then like he completely showed out. But then like Lamar Jackson also has the athletic
Mhm.
talent that Mendoza doesn't have, that he can rely on. Like he's a smart quarterback. He's not lazy. He puts in the effort. But like Mendoza also has doesn't have that athletic talent, so there's kind of like a balancing thing there. Not saying Lamar is stupid, but like he did really bad on the Wonder League test too. Like it was
Well,
part of
yeah, and the Wonderlic is for sure like at this point it's a thing of the past for a reason. Like we don't talk about the new quarterbacks with it because it does. I don't think it's like a one for one.
yeah.
But there was again, it's just that Jared Goff. Like when he came out, it was like this is the big knock is that this guy doesn't. I remember seeing posts where like, this guy can't tie his own shoes, and that's super unfair. That's
Yeah.
super unfair. But
Yeah.
that was the knock. So if you could take Jared Goff into a system where he could learn it quicker, I don't
It's
know.
yeah. I don't know. Mendoza went to Yale before he was going to go to Yale before he went to was it Cal, I think, which were Goff also went, and then Indiana, of course. He's just very smart, basically what I'm saying.
Mm.
Very, very, very smart.
I'm trying to get hype about it. I wouldn't consider him like a top fantasy quarterback, no matter what. Like at this point, like there's potential there, but like not when you're entering your draft. This isn't the only quarterback you want to end up with. Trust me.
No.
Um,
That's why I was mentioning like, yeah, like Mendoza, Ward as like the end of the round
mhm.
guys to pick. And you don't want to just pick one, like you were saying. Like maybe if you fade QB until round 12, 13, then look at these guys like Mendoza or Ward that have that like that upside.
Yeah, and other names that I would still mention. So Dak, I don't see a reason why that's going to significantly change as far as his output. I think he'll have a great game still.
Yeah.
And then Jaden Daniels, who had a injury and just disaster of a year, he's probably going to drop in drafts almost certainly. And there could be value there
Yeah.
because if he stays healthy all year, that whole team could have looked different than what we saw.
I have a lot of I have little faith in the Commanders' offense just because their skill position players aren't great, but that doesn't like make me want to put a knock on Daniels because I think that he was overdrafted this year, sure, but he's gonna drop a lot next year with the injury and this just the disaster of a season the Commanders had, that, like, his buying price could be pretty good.
Also, like, with the way the 49ers season ended, I could see them trying to focus more on making the passing game more of a threat outside
Mhm.
of just Christian McCaffrey. So there's a chance that Brock Purdy, who did pretty competently when he was playing,
Yeah.
has even just a little bit of a, an extra oomph added to his points and can finish as a top 10.
I think the real wild card for me here is that, if the Saints add a top 10 receiver or even a Jeremiah Love and Chris Olave stays healthy and they have, like, a really good free agency signing, Tyler Shuck show that he can do something for fantasy with very, very, very little. Like, he just had Olave. So if they upgrade that, he's someone I might be interested in as a value pick. Like, I'm throwing him in that, like, Ward, Mendoza, um, I mean, honestly, like, probably Brock Purdy kinda camp or those late round dart throws. Because, like, if you're fading QB, you wanna draft for upside, and I think I would put Shuck in that, like, kinda upside camp.
Yeah, so I think there's a good amount of picks next year as far as it goes. Um, as with any year, be wary of the top picks. Also, don't get yourself too stuck on someone on the end rounds because if you don't get them, then you're left with some real bad stuff. Trust me on that one. It's happened a lot of times.
Yep.
Okay, tight end, tight end. Let's run through tight end.
Um, Trey McBride, my clear one. Even losing Petzing and getting Hackett, that sounds disgusting, but I don't know how to finish that. But I I think McBride is I just think completely OC, QB, whatever proof. He's so good. And I think Mike LaFleur will still be calling plays, I read, in Arizona, so I wouldn't overthink the Hackett hire too much. Um, so I think McBride's my clear number one. I think Bowers is up there. Um, I I really, 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 really like Colston Loveland. As someone who watched every Bears game, he just looks like a superstar. And I know that the receiving options on the Bears is super depth heavy, and that makes me cautious on the receivers. But if you can get, like, your best receiving option to be your tight end, which I think Loveland absolutely could be. As much as I like Odunze and Burden, like, I think Loveland is the best pass catcher on this team. I really think so. He's just unbelievable. Like,
See,
yeah,
I'm with you on these three, right? So in Loveland, I think here's the issue with Loveland is that his performance in the playoffs is going to boost him up the draft board pretty high. I could see him getting drafted
mm,
very, very early. So the question then becomes like it's like a value thing for right. Like, so who are you getting a value? Trey McBride, almost certainly a first rounder at this point. I would bet. Even
yeah.
people who are like, I won't take a tight in the first. He'll still go in the first to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
I think Brock Bowers drops a little bit because whoever got him wasn't very happy. He did great when he played, and you have to
Yeah.
remember that. Like, if they're having a competent season next year with a new coach, I bet you he plays through the whole year.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, and I mean, I love it. Like, if we actually get a competent coach that is willing to use a wide receiver one like they used JSN this year, that's Brock Bowers.
Yeah,
He could have a phenomenal year. And then, yeah, Colson Loveland. But I'm having this thought because I think he's going to be everyone's sleeper pick at tight end that he's gonna
mhm.
like end up going in like the fourth or third round.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think
Well,
even I don't think
we'll
a
see.
single Bears pass catcher is gonna go in the above, like, round 5.
I really think it could happen with Loveland. We'll see, but this is my prognostication. That's where I get worried about him. I'm like, if you drop that much into it, and then Ben Johnson does the thing where he's like, let's spread it around at the start of the year, change it up halfway through the year because it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah,
What am I supposed to say? Like it works, it keeps working. So, but it would hurt you fantasy wise.
yeah, I think it could. I think that we just haven't seen any downside from Loveland because, like, he wasn't getting targeted at all to start the year, and he just wasn't showing up because he wasn't getting the targets, and then as soon as he got the targets, the Bears offense exploded,
Hmm.
in conjunction with other things, but, like, he just I my brain has, like, deleted every single memory of a third down catch that Loveland didn't catch. Like, I can see I close my eyes and I see so many third down catches from Loveland, it's like I can't think of anything else. So I have a bias there. And I think he will shoot up draft boards, but, I don't know. I think if and I agree, I think the offense could get changed up a lot, but if they keep it the way it was and they give Loveland as many targets as he was getting, like, sky's the limit. But again, they might switch it up a bit. I think
Well,
that's what makes me cautious.
see, 'cause and I don't disagree with you at all. I really do think he could have a great season regardless of where he's being drafted, right? Like, this is one of those, like, maybe even in the f if he ends up in the 4th round, maybe he's even worth it there at the end of the season next year, you know?
Yeah, because
Um,
potential. Yeah.
it's just a hard sell, but I think that with the way he showed out, and especially when he showed out, I mean, over and over again, if you're watching the playoff games, which I'm sure a lot of fantasy football crazy people are,
Mhm.
they're just like, "Wow, this is your best catcher. Throw it to him. He is your best pass catcher. He is Loveland is really showing up as your best pass catcher. Wow, Loveland." They kept repeating it, and the thing about repetition is that that's what gets stuck in your mind.
Yeah.
So, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. I just it's a feeling I'm getting that I'm like, this is gonna be everyone's sleeper to pick to the point where he is so high up. He's no longer a sleeper. He's gonna take the place of George Kittle in next year's draft.
And then I pick. Yeah, honestly, like, and, now that you mention it, like, I think he okay, this is me not clearly vetting this and, like, just having the bias, but I think he probably was the best tight end in all the playoffs. Like, who else was better than him?
I yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, who else really that no one?
yeah.
Dalton
But
Schultz? No, come on.
so if you're just looking at the playoffs and, like, if you're looking at fantasy sleepers and you like, are the freshest part in your mind is, like, watching the playoffs, Loveland stands out like a sore thumb.
And I think everyone will be expecting the Bears offense to take another little jump next year too.
Yeah,
I
hopefully.
mean,
Doesn't
uh,
have to. It doesn't have to.
it doesn't have to, but I think that all bets would be on probably.
Yeah.
Um, Kyle Pitts is someone depending on where he ends up. We'll see what happens with him. Like I'm spacing the Dallas Cowboys tight end name right now. Jake Ferguson. There we go. We got there. Um, someone who probably will be underdrafted, finish better. And then Gadsden for the
Yeah,
Chargers.
I like
I'm very interested in Gadsden. Yeah.
he kinda did that thing where he had that midseason breakout, and then he had disappointing games down the stretch, so people kinda forgot about him. And again, this actually quite similar to the Bears offense, like, this is a team that has some really good pass catching options that spreads the ball around a lot, but I think the addition of Mike McDaniel and what we saw from his offensive scheme with Jonnu and, hyper targeting the tight end, I think that Gadsden is someone that is not gonna shoot up draft boards anywhere near where, like, Loveland is going, so he's still gonna be, like, a double-digit round pick. Um, so there's
I love him there like a lot. I think Gadsden next year it is dependent on value, but I think he could be one of those sneaky late round tight ends that ends up vaulting into the top 5. Um, it's too early to say for with any sort of certainty, but that's like something I feel. Um, I'm for oh my goodness. Okay, so this is where I know I'm just getting late. The Colts tight end, Tyler
oh,
Warren.
he was my next guy I was gonna mention, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we saw him fall off, after Daniel Jones went down, but, like, all due respect to Philip Rivers, like, either Jones or someone more competent is gonna be throwing to him next year. Like, we could just say that. Like,
Philip Rivers shouldn't have been playing football. I mean, I'm glad it happened. Don't get me wrong, but he shouldn't have been playing football. Come on, like, it-
yeah,
he can't complete those passes. We saw that, right? Like he tried, and you know what? Good on you for trying, Philip. I don't like you that much because you were a Chargers quarterback, but you know what? Good on you for trying. I'll still say it.
yeah,
But there was no zip on any of those balls. Holy cow!
no, and he didn't do the thing where he, like, used the tight end as a safety blanket in the way we thought he might. Like, he actually did try to air it out, and he wasn't successful, but when he was, it was to Alec Pierce, and so Alec Pierce was the big beneficiary of all that. But, yeah, he didn't take the tight end checkdowns like we might have suspected him with Warren, but I have faith that Warren will have a good enough quarterback to start the year to be a good pick. Um, and the one other guy I'm actually really excited about, and this is just kind of going off recency bias with us seeing every single year for the past like 3 years, like a top 50 pick tight end going off. But I think that there is a lot of teams in the first round that don't have a super reliable tight end. And I think wherever Kenyon City goes is a team to watch to have him. I think that not saying he's talented enough that he's like team proof and he's gonna blow up just because he's on a good team, but like there's just so many good landing spots for him, and he's a projected first round pick like pretty easily that like the teams that are going to take him in the first round are teams that are both, not lacking a lot of great weapons, or are lacking a lot of like high end weapons, and are also like very tight end needy. Um, like the Buccaneers of Otten leaves is a popular spot. The Eagles of Goddard leaves is a popular spot. I mean, those are already good offenses with weapons, but look at the Patriots, the Broncos. There are teams that he's being looked at to be drafted to that like just need that tight end one, or that really big play potential weapon, and that don't have it.
I really like the idea of the Eagles, especially if Goddard and AJ Brown leave, because
Yeah,
that opens up a lot. And with a new offensive coordinator, I think we'll see that team click back in some ways. So,
I
um,
like.
yeah, me too. So
Uh,
that'd be a good one.
and then also just like, I mean, injury notwithstanding, but Tucker Kraft was having such a good year. He tore his
True.
ACL. He tore his ACL pretty easy. He's probably going to be back for week one. Like, we can't really forget how good he looked.
That is 100% true. He was kind of the wide receiver one on that team at
Oh
that
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Is there any do you care about Kincaid with or even Mark Andrews at this point?
There's such a drop off with tight ends, especially this past year, that like you could do worse. Because at least you're picking teams with good offenses. Um, but they're not nothing. Nobody I want to get excited about.
It's fair.
Uh,
Sam Laporta is interesting to me with the Drew Petzing coming over because of how well Trey McBride did. If you think Laporta has even like 75% of the talent that Trey McBride does, then Laporta could have a really like comeback year. He could be a serious option again.
he could. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't think Petson to like the tight end is like a 1-to-1 comparison, but like if Laporta comes back and has a great year, I think Petzing wants to get his best players involved, and we've seen Laporta be great before. So he's someone to like. Same with Harold Fannin. If Harold Fannin can have competent quarterback play, like he's another guy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Harold Fannin was awesome.
Yeah. You want to look at the tight ends have such just a big disparity between the top, that like you want to go for upside, I think, when you're taking tight ends. And that's like teams like young players that have potential big breakout, and then like teams with established good offenses. Other than that, like keep me away.
Yeah, right. Okay. So we've already talked about Super Bowl predictions. We've already talked the top five. I think there's enough hot takes in there that I don't necessarily need to do hot takes separately at this point, unless you want to. Unless you have something you really want to say, you can get it off your chest right now, Willie. This is the time.
Hmm. Hot takes. I don't know. Like I don't have anything like piping hot right now. Um, I think that. Oh, I had a good quarterback. Oh, okay. This is a crazy one. I haven't really locked in where, but I think Will Levis will be starting next year somewhere.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That yeah, that is something. I actually think here's my hot take. Shador Sanders starts all next year and he throws a couple more touchdowns than interceptions.
That's a bit much. I don't know about that. I think a hot take would be he starts every game next year and misses the Pro Bowl. That would be crazy.
I don't even know how he got the Pro Bowl, man. Like it just Dion and he got all his like buddies. He's like, I'll pay y'all $2 if you just vote for my son.
He's got the money to pay them like 2 grand.
Yeah, right. Okay, there's one quick thing that I want to bring up, and that is the Super Bowl halftime show and the Turning Point USA Super Bowl halftime show. I need to bring this up because it is labeled as the All American halftime show,
Oh,
starring Kid Rock, Brantley Gilbert, Lee Bryce, and Gabby Barrett, with potential hidden performers Nicki Minaj. And I just look. This is we don't curse on the show, okay? So I'm gonna keep this nice, brief, and simple. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and the fact that you are calling it the All American show when the other show is also All American is not just it's stupid. It's so ignorant. It's so dumb. Guys, come on, we can do better than this.
it's so racist. I mean, I use that like literally meaning it. Like Bad Bunny is American. Puerto Rico's in America. So you're literally just saying the all white show. That's what else could you mean?
It's the only thing it can mean.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys. Like, I know geography is hard, and I know Puerto Rico sounds different. But, like, there was a time when words like Hawaii sounded different and, like, Alaska sounded and you know what happens is that we accepted them. Now, if Puerto Rico were to become a state, would you just be like, "Oh, I guess he is American," because there's no difference in what's happening here except for they're not giving votes. Like, is that all you care about? And I already know the answer. This is a rhetorical question, but, like, think about it, like, there's no reason like, you can't they're bringing immigration control to an Americans concert. What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm you know what? This is the first time I'll ever say it, and probably the last time I'll ever say it. Thanks, Roger Goodell. I really appreciate you for sticking to your
I
guns about this.
do too. He didn't just come out and, like, give that PR speak of, like, "Oh," he's like, "Oh, we picked a good performer and, he's popular and we wanna get a guy who, like, will, who's popular. We went with a good choice." But, like, he actually came out and defended him, and he's like, "No, Bad Bunny is American, like, this is who we want." Like, he doubled down on it in a way that wasn't just PR speak, but he actually, like, came to not just Roger Goodell's defense, but, like, Bad Bunny's defense, and, like, "No, we want this guy, like, there's a conscious choice here." Which was cool. I was actually surprised that he not that he would, like, tell Bad Bunny, like, "No, you can't do it now," or anything, but he actually, like I don't know, Goodell just came across as, like, having a lot of confidence, not just
It
for personal reasons.
it's interesting. It's like, there's a lot of history between this administration and the NFL. Not good history. And you think that, like, the NFL seems to be this one organization where they're like, "You know what? We don't have to listen. We're too
Yeah, yeah,
big. We're too big at this point."
yeah,
And I really appreciate that they're doing this. But also, Turning Point USA, if you want to know at this point what you should get, go check out Kid Rock's song from Osmosis Jones. And
yeah.
just know that if you watch that, that's what you're getting.
I
It,
don't even know, like, if Kid Rock can fill a whole, like I mean, I know they have other guests, but, like, if Kid Rock's your headliner, is he have both the quality of catalog, but also, like, the mental capacity to do a whole halftime show? I I
the latter probably not. The first one, he's just gonna play that one song that ripped off Warren Zevon over and over again.
Oh, this or not not Sweet Home Alabama, but, Werewolves of not Werewolves of London, the summer stupid song, yes.
You were right the first 2 times and the 3rd time because he ripped off both of those songs to make this new song, and he's like, "That's my hit," and never gave credit to anyone. So, um, I and it'll get credit among the people who gets credit among. I already know this. I've already given up on this basically, but I have to say it. Just stop. Like, if you're gonna stop. Just can we stop talking with these, like, backwards languages and just say what you're doing?
It's just
Please.
I just I don't know. I feel like it would be entertaining enough for, like, a few minutes 'cause it'll be kinda cringy, but I just don't see enough material for Kid Rock or, this whole this rogues gallery of performers to carry, like I mean, you could do other things, like I mean, I heard rumors that, like, the founder of Turning Point was maybe gonna give a speech, but he got held up at a conference in Utah or something. I don't know. I haven't read the news lately, but it's just what else are you gonna do? There's
Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay. Alright, we gotta end it with that one because that there's nowhere else to go from there. Alright, whoever you're rooting for in the Super Bowl, I hope they win. That's me being the Raiders fan and just being able to tune out on this one, but, otherwise, if you're rooting for the Hawks in the Pacific Northwest, go Hawks.
go
Um,
Hawks.
and Doink out.
Doink out.
Wonderful.